All right, Locker Room Philosophers, I hope you are ready for another exciting interview. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing George Shauoni Jr., aka Junior. He's the owner of the Powerhouse Gym locations in Troy and Madison Heights, as well as a variety of other businesses. He's a family man, and you'll likely be able to hear the sounds of his kids in the background of this episode. He's also a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a black belt in multiple other traditional martial arts. In this episode, Junior is gracious enough to share some of the wisdom he has learned along the way of balancing all those different facets of his life. And I hope you can gain some value from this episode. If you want to follow Junior or learn more about him, you can find him on Instagram at junior_powerhouse 24/7. Hope you enjoy this episode. Junior, let's start off with just where'd you grow up and how'd you grow up?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in West Bloomfield. I went to Walled Lake High Schools. We grew up pretty middle class. My dad worked his ass off. You'll hear throughout the podcast kind of like where I get my my work mentality from, and like why I do the things I do. I have two older sisters. They're super badass. One of them is married, two nieces, and then my mom is a superstar, cooks for everybody. She was actually here earlier, and I told her you guys are coming, and she's like, "You didn't tell me, I would have made them food." And I was like, I didn't even think about that. I actually don't really. This doesn't sound really bad, but I don't really care for our traditional food. No, I'm a big burger dude. I love burgers. Like you can't give me a big enough burger. Yeah, I love burgers. Yeah, so that was pretty much it as far as like where I grew up. West Bloomfield, Walled Lake Schools. Super jockey. I love sports my whole life. I grew up in martial arts. Boxed for a super long time. And then jiu-jitsu now for about 8 years. And then married for almost 6 years now. 3 kids. And then how fast do you guys edit these podcasts? What's your turnaround time on these?
I can edit it pretty fast now that I've got some stuff figured out, but we'll probably air this next week.
All right, cool. So basically, the reason why I was saying that is because my wife is pregnant right now, so I wasn't sure how fast you guys turn these around because nobody really knows yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, congratulations. But I can edit that out if you want me to.
You don't want to put it
She's actually going to her first doctor's appointment right now. That's why she left. Yeah. So.
Damn, and you're here getting your interview in.
Yeah, I'm getting it. Thank you. Yeah, it's like this is technically supposed to be her second appointment. Yeah. Garbo just said something to me the other day. Me and Pop were rolling, and he like came up to us and stopped us, and he's like, "Pop, are you gonna have another kid?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think so." And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "George, you're not done." And I was like, "Nah, I'm not done at all." I wanted to tell him my wife's pregnant right now, though. That was like 2 days ago. But yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, everything's cool, man. Super cool. I love it. I want a big family. My wife wants a big family. She's a rock star at home, so I try to do my thing at work and provide.
That's really cool. So you said you grew up playing a lot of sports and got your start in martial arts. So tell us about that. What kind of sports you play?
Yeah, so honestly, the foundation to every single sport that I ever played was solely driven by martial arts. So the backstory of that, in the 80s, growing up, like my dad's generation, like Bruce Lee was like, that's like the LeBron James, Michael Jordan on steroids. So the founders of Powerhouse, before they had Powerhouse, were super into martial arts, and my dad was super into martial arts. So there is, Sabaki was the style that we trained, and Sensei Frost had a school where Joe Serbenovich, who was my original instructor, my dad, and then is it super loud? Yeah, Isla, you gotta be quiet, baby. And so they all went over there. They trained for a super long time, and then my dad never stopped. So like that lineage of martial arts, Scott Mexuga, kind of I'll intro him, and then Matt Sikora, who I still train with today. They kind of grew up with my dad, training with my dad as training partners, and then when I was born, my dad still trained. So there's pictures of my dad training and then me in the shadows. just mocking the adult classes, like trying to throw roundhouses at like 2 years old. And, and it was just, I didn't know any different. So, I might get emotional on this, but so from like when I was 2 to about 12, 13 years old, Joe trained me my whole life. Got into some bad habits. He was an alcoholic, did some whatever he did, and he ended up getting in trouble and he fled, ran away, moved to Florida. And then that was the break off of me training with him. So I did no training of martial arts from 12 to about 14, 15 years old. And then kind of kept into boxing. I loved boxing, just being good with my hands. And then I played football. I was a super good football player with no discipline. I had this like all me mentality. I didn't care to, practice. I was super good. So I was just like that AI mentality, like, man, fuck practice. Like these coaches don't know shit. I'm the best. And didn't really get me anywhere. I would start and then I would, get myself in trouble and then whatever it was, what it was. So freshman year, got into a real bad fight, put a kid in a coma. He was out for 2 weeks and that kind of put a stent on my freshman year of football. I still made it through this season, but the head coach didn't really care for me, which I don't blame him because I didn't really do anything to show him that like it was not my fault. Like the guy was like fucking around with me. So the guy made it out of his coma. He survived. He's cool. He's done. Head coach hated me, always picked on me. And then now in hindsight, all the other coaches tried to motivate me. And he was doing the same thing, but just in his way of coaching. So junior year, I quit football. And then they brought me back on, but the stipulation was I played JV football instead of varsity. So I played, it was easy, whatever, stupid. Senior year, I go back, super cocky. And my head coach wanted to prove a point to me, which I thanked him later for in my adult life. Did not start me the first game. It was an obvious thing that I should have been starting, and we got our asses handed to us. And then I just packed my bags, and I was like, I'm done. And he was just trying to show me that, like, there's a team here, and then it just wasn't for me. So whatever. So I kind of grew past that. And then when I graduated high school, I started boxing a lot. I wanted to go pro fighting. I wanted to just do the whole thing with boxing. And I thought that was my route. And then I ended up reaching out to Joe on Facebook. I found him on Facebook, reached out to him, and we had a couple conversations on the phone. And then he was he was drunk. He ended up killing himself. He drank himself to death. But in his drunk nights, he would instigate things with other students that were a lot older than me, that I grew up training with. So he would call and say like, "Hey, Junior said that you guys are like punks," but it wasn't the conversation. He was just drunk, starting shit. So those guys would call me and they would start fighting. Like, what the fuck, And they'd punk me out. I'm like 18, 19, and I'm like, I'm ready to scrap. And I'm like, listen, it wasn't like that. He's drunk, this and that. And then a year later, he kills himself. So at his memorial, Scott Maxuga, which was his training partner, was at the memorial, and he came up to me and was like, obviously they had split because of, whatever, same kind of things of everything else. They split their martial arts, and Scott was like, I don't want you to stop training. Your roots are different than traditional martial arts. We're different. I want you to stay training. He said, come to my school that I have here, and you're going to train with my guys. So he introduced me to Matt Sikora, who's literally like one of my best friends, and Richie Dristy. They're super high-level stand-up guys. They're ranked Matt is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Richie's a purple belt. And they're at True. Professor Dan's over there, whatever. So I went over there, and I continued my martial arts until now. And then it was about 8 years ago, they had brought a purple belt to start teaching jiu-jitsu. And then he left, he joined service. Then they brought another purple belt. And then we trained, and I had that mentality up until then, until I was like 20, 21 years old, that I was better than everybody. They bring this purple belt who weighed 140 pounds. I was about 180, 185. I wrestled in high school. I was like, I'm going to wax this kid. Like that white belt mentality of a wrestler. I was like, I'm literally going to wax this guy. He gets up and he's like, we're going to put 5 minutes on the timer and we're just going to roll. and I'm gonna roll with everybody, and I'll see where everybody's at. So we go through like 6 rounds, and I'm like holding my own. I'm doing good. This guy comes up, and he made me tap. You guys know what it's like. I tapped maybe 50 times in 5 minutes. It got to the point where if I felt him grab my wrist, I would just give it to him because it hurt so bad. So then that was kind of like the breaking point of like starting to like understand like you need to be a little bit more humble. Like you're not the best. Like jiu-jitsu kind of really did kind of shove that in my face a little bit. So that was that. So that's like the sports aspect of it.
So if I can stop you for a sec, what do you think it was growing up that kind of made you start getting that ego? Was it just naturally being good at a lot of things, or what was it?
I was a really good fighter. So Joe, part of our training was he would come to my house and train me, and then he would take me places with him. That's all he did. Is he was mobile. He was a mobile like martial artist. So people would pay him in groups. They would bring 10 people, and you go train with him. So he would pick me up from my house after school, and then I would literally drive with him from place to place to train with adults. And, you know, being that young, he would have me stand up and literally basically bare knuckle fight, train with these older dudes. And I would hold my own. So like I grew up on this like one-on-one mentality that like I didn't need anybody else on my team. You know, I was a very isolated sport player. I played basketball for 2 years, and I was like, these guys suck. Instead of saying like I can make them better by being a good leader, I would, you know, be a point guard and just ball hog the entire time. Like I didn't understand like be a better person by making other people better. So I think that growing up only playing that one sport as a martial artist, being not understanding a team, made me think that I can do everything by myself.
Okay. And then so the switch to get you to become more humble was getting your ass kicked by this purple belt.
100% getting my ass handed to me. And it sounds really stupid, and I think that people with that mentality eventually will either get humbled like that or in other ways, like injuries or, you know, whatever. The most definitely, like, you know, you could just be put on your ass in general. And I just think that it was going to happen sooner or later. And I'm happy that it happened sooner than versus like, you know, having a family and then, you know, me fucking this up, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's better to have it happen in what's essentially like a safe environment, right?
Sure.
Than having it happen on the street. You meet that guy at a bar somewhere, and then now you've got.
And you kind of know too, like you guys, we train together. You can kind of tell the guys that walk in that have that mentality, like you know, like now, like I walk in, like I just say hi to everybody, and like I'm very cautious. Like I don't want anybody thinking that like, oh, it's that douchebag again.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's when people talk about martial arts and in being like an outlet, and it's so important for people that, you know, have whatever they're dealing with in life, whether it's just being angry, whether it's, you know, not having an outlet for their emotions and not knowing how to deal with it, especially men specifically, like how martial arts, even if they're aggressive as a young kid or whatever, bullies, right? If they have a tendency to bully people, martial arts can be that like grounding place for them, because then, like to your point, Carlos, in a safe environment for the most part, right? Because you're training, and then even with jiu-jitsu being, you know, live, you know, 100% force on force training for the most part, which is also great and different too. I feel like it really like shows them, hey, you don't know who's who out there, you know, what they're capable of, and it really puts you in your place. So I love that aspect of martial arts and how it relates to, like, you know, humbling you and your ego and kind of putting that in check.
For sure. And then that was pretty much it for me. And and it was kind of weird too, is because I grew up super religious, and it's kind of like you want to turn a blind eye to the things that you do wrong, right? And like it takes a lot to be able to say like I did wrong, like I'm wrong in this aspect. And I was kind of like a jerk to like a lot of people too. Like I was a jock. Everybody loved me, and like the kids that weren't like on that level, I just didn't acknowledge. Like, I didn't really bully anybody, but I was just like a dick, you know. It is what it is. And it's funny too, is because around that same time where I got humbled, I remember like in my parents' house, living with my parents, I sent out a message to like anybody I thought that I did wrong to. I shot a message out to them and I was just like, yo, like, I'm sure that I did something that wasn't right to you. Like, you know, I may not know what it is, or I do know what it is, and I would acknowledge what it is. And I just want to say I'm sorry.
That's
And like
great.
one guy, like we just had animosity towards each other for no reason. And I'm like best friends with his brother now. And I was just like, I shot him a message and I just remember telling him like, hey, like, I know I didn't do anything to you, and I know you didn't do anything to me, but I know there's animosity and I'm sorry. And he was just like, hey, you're right. Like, it is what it is. I'm sorry too. And then that was it. Like, it was just crazy. But I feel like my whole life changed like after that. It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel better. It's like,
absolutely.
we had nothing against each other, but it just kind of just flipped us, you know? But
Yeah, you can't be holding on, to all that too. There's a lot of people hold grudges, which turn into, even like to your point, sometimes they know why, sometimes there's really no good reason. And then all it does is fester inside you and create other problems. And then you're just, you don't know what's going on. It just comes out in other ways in your life. So it's like, take that off you, man, just forgiveness and just move on, squash it, as they say, that's the best part.
yeah, I mean, I try my best not to have egos with that kind of stuff. Like, really dumb things. Like I've got into shit with some of my best friends, you know, even legal matters. It ends up being like I send a message. I'm like, I could have communicated with this before it got to this point, and then it's squashed. But it takes a lot to say you're wrong, and a lot of people don't want to do that.
So when you did flip the switch and start, mending those relationships with other people that you felt you had wronged, who did you look to for inspiration on how to act now that, I mean, it sounds like it was a pretty substantial life change.
So like this isn't like so corny and like weird to say, but like I had a conversation 2 days ago with somebody telling them that I was going to do this podcast with you guys, or yesterday. And I said, like, I never like to know what I'm talking about on podcasts because I just don't feel like it's organic. Just like, I'd rather have people talk and whatever happens, happens. And I said, one thing I never really do is I never thank God, like, when I do these podcasts. Because, like, really, every opportunity that I've ever been given, the success that I have at work it was really God, timing. All that stuff that happened to me within, like, a year and a half. I had a lot of things happen to me that, like, just kept assuring me that it was going the right way. Like, yeah, it sucked when Joe died, like broke my heart. Like little things like what I just told you, like I didn't think I would ever send a message to somebody that I know I didn't do anything wrong to and say sorry, but it was really just all God. I turned myself to church big time. I started teaching youth groups. I like Bible study for kids, and I just invested my entire time into church, and I just like found that it just gave me a lot of peace. I looked down on a lot of things that I used to do, and I used to beat myself up about it. And then the only time I would ever find real peace in that is like when I would go to church, and like I would talk to a priest, and he'd be like, "It doesn't matter what you've done; it matters what you're doing. Like you're forgiven, just like whatever." And I just found a lot of peace in that. So yeah, it's like I thank God every day. I don't thank him enough. I'm very grateful for, my relationships with people like you guys and just work, my family. It's just silly stuff, like my best friend grew up Catholic, and I don't even know if he'd claim himself as an atheist or agnostic or whatever he says he is, but he's like my most valued relationship outside of my family, because of being a good person, so religion outside of that, God put him in my life because I'm able to recognize that he doesn't have to be like me, to be a good friend. But yeah, that was kind of like my switch, is like when I turned to God for everything.
Okay, cool. And so obviously your biggest thing now in terms of business is owning Powerhouse Gym. So what got you into fitness in the first place?
All right, so it's super cool. I kind of always knew I would end up in the gym. My dad always wanted me to like go to school, and he wanted me to be a dentist because his best friend was a dentist. Then he wanted me to be a CPA because he says he liked his CPA, and he had all this stuff planned for me, which is like what a parent does, right? So my dad actually started with Powerhouse basically from day one as a member. And then he started with them in the early 80s, mid 80s, as far as like a operating manager, owner. And the location that you guys always see me posting in Troy, my dad opened up in 1991. So I was born in 1992. So I was born basically 13 months after my dad opened this gym. So I grew up in a gym. So he opened it at 91. He's going to get mad at me for not knowing the year he opened up our Madison Heights location. I think it was like 94.
Which I've been a member at both.
Yeah, have you?
Oh yeah, when I was
really?
younger.
I didn't know that.
I grew up in Troy, like high school.
Yeah.
So I was definitely a member at those both.
Yeah. So around that time, we were basically the only other gym besides Bally's that was around there.
Exactly. Yeah. And then
So-
Bally's when it closed down.
Closed down.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll tell you a funny story about the guy who used to run that gym. He works for Powerhouse now. So I grew up in the gym. Summer vacations meant that I was the janitor at the gym, so I didn't get really summer vacations. My freshman year, I wanted to hang out with my friends so bad that I lied and said I was in summer school. So I actually think I was in summer school. I think I lied about how long it was. So I would still get dropped off, and then I would go to my friend's house, and then I'd get picked up. It's like that mentality. Like my dad kind of like instilled. Like if I was out of school, that means I was working. And then on the weekend, I would go to work with my dad at like 8 a.m, and then one of our guys would drop me off at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So like from an early age, me and my sisters worked at the front desk, checking people in, cleaning. That's kind of like how my childhood was ran through the gym. And then as far as training people, when I was a senior in high school, I wanted to go on spring break, and my dad said, if you want to go, you have to pay for it. So I used to get paid $100 a week to work at the gym, and then I'd get paid commission. So I used to like sit there and like sell a membership and add the $20, and I'm like, oh, I need to make like $2,500 to pay for this trip. I'm like, I'm never gonna make it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start training my friends. So I started training my friends for like $30 an hour, and I started training them. And then I was like, man, this is easy money. All I knew was the gym, so it's like this is easy. So I started training all my friends, and then came back, and then going into my freshman year of college, which I never finished college. I just started diving into like everything I could as far as like studying for, personal training. That's like probably like my pride and joy now outside of like my family is like taking pride in how much I know about working out.
What do you think, so Powerhouse, growing up in that environment, what do you think the biggest takeaway was that kind of like cemented it, like, cause you grew up in the gym. So that's like amazing in itself just to be around. I found the gym like 13 and that's when I got hooked, and I was like, what, but growing up in there, what do you think the biggest thing that kind of was?
So this is I do retreats now with our church, and I talk about this all the time. I think the biggest thing that I took away was seeing people's transformation and understanding that it's a delayed gratification. Everything takes time. You guys are jiu-jitsu practitioners, so you understand what I'm going to say. Anything great does not come in a short amount of time. Like it takes 12 years, 10 years to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like that's crazy. Why would we waste our time doing that? And it's kind of like the same thing for these transformations I see in the gym. And it kind of put that in perspective for me too. You look at a monthly subscription for a gym. If a gym is going to make any kind of money, they need like 2,000, 3,000 members if they're a small facility. That's delayed gratification. It's going to take you a hell of a long time to get that, And I was fortunate enough that my dad had started the gym in 91 because, I have a good base to work off of. And then now it's just like my savviness. I try to use what we have now to build it up, so.
So what have you seen in terms of the industry changing since you've been involved in it in the last like 30 years?
Man, it's kind of crazy because it changes, but then it goes right back to what it was. Like if you look at like, the 70s and 80s and the way people used to work out back then, very traditional, deadlifting, benching, and all that. And then you have like this weird gap, probably like when I was in like high school or maybe a little bit sooner, of people doing like weird, like crazy stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. You have like all these weird pop-up gyms that would pop up, and then they were like trying to make these new fitness trends, and they obviously didn't last. They're all gone. Then you have CrossFit who came in, and they took all these traditional lifts and they make them to these crazy circuits. That's all they did. They took all these Olympic liftings, maybe added a few other things, some cardio movements, and then they kind of reinvented that wheel. And then if you look at training now, it's like basically all calisthenics. All like the longevity of training is like all calisthenics. So what do I see in the evolution of training? I think that science now is teaching us what really is good for your body and what is not. So I think in the next like 10 years, we're going to see all these like pro athletes that are looking to train and play these sports for another 10 years longer than what they do right now. I think the evolution of fitness is going to be a lot different than what we think. I think the barbell will probably be obsolete for most athletes. And I think that the evolution is going to be more of like open gyms, where, you know, you have a warehouse style facility or like a super big box, and everything be based off of like pulley systems, and resistant bands and MFR stuff. I don't know like what you guys are, you know, like what you guys do for fitness and stuff, but a lot of the stuff now it's like avoid stretching and do like fascial releasing and stuff like that, and you have all the arguments for that. But I just think that that's the wave it's gonna go. I feel like a lot of the other stuff isn't gonna go away as far as like barbell lifting and Olympic lifting.
What do you think is going to replace the barbell?
Kettlebells, dumbbells, maces.
Kettlebells are so underrated. I mean,
Big time.
they're definitely more popular now and in use, but they've been around so long, but they're so
That and
functionally
sandbags is all I do.
yeah, sandbags too. And that's kind of how my fitness is. I mean, I've done it all. I've been lifting since I was like 13, really
That
consistently.
was like 50 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So like I've been through like even like phases that I want. Like I wanted to be a bodybuilder, then I wanted to be the power lifter, then I wanted to
Be
gain
athletic,
size, and then I want to do like the more plyometric sports based, and then injuries and whatever. But yeah, the kettlebell though, I was like, I didn't really use it until maybe the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And then that's where I was like, dude, this is just a great overall
For
piece.
sure.
Yeah. And then even for people starting off, it's like one kettlebell, it's all you really need, instead of, you know, worrying about like, oh, I need all this equipment to start. One kettlebell.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot.
I got this certification. I'm doing the second level in January. It's called Functional Patterns.
Yeah, I see those guys.
Yeah, so the functional patterns, they're basically, they're trying to restore the natural human movement. And they're I don't want to say argument, but their theory of the barbell makes a lot of sense to me. Any injury that I've ever had from working out has been from a barbell. You know, benching, my shoulders shot. One thing I didn't mention is I competed in powerlifting in high school. My lower back, I think if I would have persisted on competing, I think I would have blew out my back. It just makes a lot of sense. There's nothing that you can do in life that would be equal to you using a barbell. I just don't see what you would be picking up that's almost 8 feet long like that.
Steve Mason, maybe. But
Yeah. I can't pick his ass up. I tried doing a knee bar on him, and I was still
That's a
on his
barbell.
thigh.
His
I'm
leg
like,
is
bro.
a barbell.
He's like, slide down. I'm like, get out of my face. The functional patterns, guys. I love it a lot. I don't think it would be something I would 100% switch over to, but their movements are very unorthodox. Watching it from the outside view, it looks like that guy you see on social media that's doing like the craziest shit with like a pulley system. I mean, it makes a lot of sense though. But if you're doing it in public, they're probably looking at you like you look like a nut job. Those guys, they don't do any barbell stuff. It's literally mace, kettlebells, pulley systems, resistant bands. They use the lacrosse ball and foam rolling like you would never believe it. Like if you think that bruise is bad, what you get doing with their stuff is insane. But all my injuries are basically gone following functional pattern stuff.
Best friends, a lacrosse ball and a foam roller.
Yeah,
There's
literally.
like every day just.
I keep a
Get
PVC
after it.
pipe here. I got a 3-inch PVC pipe. That's what I use.
when I was doing some research on you, the Troy location, I didn't look up the Madison Heights location, but the Troy location, you've got 295 reviews on Google with a 4.6 star average. Many of the reviews talk about the welcoming atmosphere and encouraging staff. How do you foster a good gym culture?
You know, it's funny. I have to answer a review right now, and I'm only bringing that up because, like, as an owner, you want everybody's experience to be good, right? But some things are just out of your control. Like, if you give somebody the option to sign up and they sign up for a year contract, they didn't choose a month-to-month contract. That's not on me. You know, like, you're gonna give me a bad review because you chose to do a contract. But at the same time, I try to service that as best as I could. And I'm only bringing that up because, like, I want that 4.6 to be a 5-star, and it eats away at you as a business owner because you want everybody to be happy about, you know, being at your business, you know. But though it's so simple and it's so stupid to say this, but if you really do love your business, if you love your business yourself, then servicing your clients is not hard, and then your reviews are natural. You know, like when people come in, like during the pandemic, we stayed open at my Troy location, and there's a lot of people that were not happy about it, and they called OSHA on us. So, you know, long story short, we ended up getting like a, I don't know, $300 fine from OSHA, and one of our members found out, who's been a member for 30 years, and he walked in and he handed us the $300, and he was just like, he's like, I'm not letting you guys pay that. He's like, I've been a member for 30 years. And he's like, I'm paying it. He's like, and I'm gonna pay it happily. And we're like, no, it's okay. Like, don't worry. But that's just like kind of the stuff that happens. You know, 30 years. That's not a member. That's family. So we try to treat everybody as if they're gonna be a 30-year member, and they're gonna be our family. Most of my members, we know their name, we know their last name. I can tell you most of their member numbers. I can tell you if they got grandkids or if they have kids, if they're getting married. And it's not even about being nosy. It's just we just interact with them a lot. You know, we spend time on the gym floor. My dad and I have a firm belief that the office doesn't make us money. You know, you have a lot of gym owners who think that, like, it's super passive income. They're going to open up this gym, build their member base, and then they're going to be obsolete. They just kind of, you know, the gym runs itself, put a manager in there, you're good to go. Well, then you're going to be very limited on, like, what success you have, you know, without getting into numbers. What we've done every 5 years is better than what we did the 5 years before that, because we spend more time every single year in our gym, instead of like saying, like, it's not about being content, but we just know where we can work better and
Building relationships.
exactly,
Right.
you know, I mean, look at, you know, my relationship with Lauren and Tony,
Mhm.
that happened from my gym. You know, Lauren came in as a client, and she's literally like my sister now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it just happens. You know, I don't shut those relationships off. That's just how I am.
Because you care.
Yeah, I care. I care a lot
Absolutely.
about my clients. I care about the members. I care about my personal training clients. Sometimes I probably care too much. But it is. That's just how it happens.
And
But-
and a lot of times too, it's when you can see that, like, I see what you do, you know, from what you post, and then obviously training with you and everything and being around you. You see when somebody's passionate about something that they do, that's when it's like you said, it's effortless, because it's like you just care about them.
Yeah,
So, like,
100%.
why would it be hard, right? You
sure.
just treat them as a human being and not like a number. And, you know, let's talk about it. What do you guys need? And then building
Exactly.
the relationships makes it fun, because you walk in, to your point, it's like a family, like a tribe, and
Yeah.
you know, a network of people that you can, you know, understand.
I have like so many of my clients that train at multiple places, you know, like, and they go to those places for like a vibe. Like, you know, you see like they post these like black light, you know, like neon mirrors and like, you know, like whatever it is, you know, and like people tell me like, oh, why don't you do that to your training room? And I'm like, you know, I'm not trying to make my gym a vibe. I want it to be like home. Like, you know, I don't have neon lights around my home. I want people to come here. Like, this is their comfort spot. They come, they work out. They got me here to pick on my brain. I help them get to their goals. Like, you want to go and have a party and do that kind of stuff, that spot's for you over there, you know? And there's nothing wrong with it. That's just not I know where my lane is in the fitness industry, and it's not that, you know?
So what do you think the difference is between, like, if you could just summarize the difference between your gym and having 30 years of sustained success versus the Bally Fitness, the F45s, the Curves, all those places that
I'll tell you one. I'm gonna tell you what it is right now. So I told you guys I'll go back to that. The guy who worked at Bally's, who works at Powerhouse now. He does these like keynote speeches at the Powerhouse convention every other year, and he always finishes with the same exact thing because it's to the owners of the gym. Every gym is just a gym, but what the other gym doesn't have is you. So you have to be you in your gym, and that's what separates us. So his name is Steve. Steve used to run the Bally's location in Troy. He said corporate called him and said, we need to run that Powerhouse out of Troy. Like, we need to take them out. Which is, that's business. It is what it is. And they're literally almost in the same exact parking lot as us. And they're no longer there and we are. And it wasn't anything besides maybe God saving us and also my dad busting his ass because he was there every single day. So the difference between us and all those other places, every place that you're going to name, don't have a hands-on owner. They have operating managers, which are not invested like an owner.
Yeah, and it's awesome too, like knowing that your dad was a part of Powerhouse Gym so early on, because I mean it was opened up, not too long before that. And then like for me growing up, it's always been the iconic place, right? And everything, like even at Bally's, more people there would have a Powerhouse Gym shirt on than a Bally's shirt.
Right? I mean, it's like, definitely got the best logo in the game.
I think so too.
I mean, it's just,
so.
and then like Highland Park, like when I first went there to train, that was like the biggest, because for me growing up, I was like, okay, eventually I want to go to Highland Park and train, but then in my head, I was like, I got to get to a certain point because I'm not gonna go there and lift with these guys, and it was a place where just legends, you had like Ron Love and Tom Platz was there. I think Andrea Shaw, who's like multiple time Miss Olympia, currently the Miss Olympia. She trained there.
Yeah, everybody
trains there, but it's just like that place is like kind of like a local mecca.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's awesome that you have that brand. That that strong brand too.
It's funny because like I used to go there, and the owner's son used to have this like private room that you couldn't get into, and it had like a floor boxing ring in there, and we used to train in there. And dude, that gym is so crazy. We walked out one day and we saw a guy, I don't know if you know what a good morning exercise is, had 405 on his back. Just repping out good mornings. Me and him looked at each other like, this guy 100% just got out of prison. He just got out of prison 100%, 25 years. He was just ripping it. It was crazy. That gym is nuts. Yeah. People there are strong as hell. Strong.
Yeah. It's just, and the energy there, and just it's nuts. It's awesome. But yeah, that was a place where I was like, I gotta work out there. On the street,
What's your approach to group fitness classes versus individual training?
Yeah, so the way we do our groups are kind of unique. So it got to a point, and I say this speaking humbly, I got really busy and I was losing money because I didn't have enough hours of the day to train people. So what I did is I took my most popular times, 6, 7, 8 a.m. and made them group hours, but in the group, every person gets a customized workout. So they're not ran like, big circuits. I have
not
those.
jazzercise at the
Yeah,
Powerhouse.
correct. Exactly. I have that, but that's not what I do 90% of my time. We have like 1 hour every other day where we do like a big cardio class. I call it the mom's class. It's like, all the stay-at-home wives.
I used to go to my mom's jazzercise class because she would have nowhere else to take us, so we would just
Is
be
that
there
why your
while she
hips are
worked
so
out.
loose in jiu-jitsu,
Oh,
bro?
100%.
Yeah, so we did. That's pretty much that. And then the one-on-ones are obviously more attentive to the person. Your one-on-one, and they're premium prices, just so that way the person that's taking your time versus a group, they're cool. As far as like, what do I like better? You ask me on a different day, and I'll give you a different answer every time. It just depends. My clientele overall are amazing. I love my clients. It can be a pain, but we're a pain for Garmo too. So,
I like. There was one thing that you mentioned. I love it. Like, so after you said that, when your client walks out of the door, like one of the things that you'll tell them after a training session is, you crushed it today, but then don't waste it, right?
Yeah, don't waste it.
And that's a
I think I said
thing.
that in a different podcast.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think that's a quote from my other podcast.
Yeah, because that's like one of the things when you're leaving it, having such like a a great workout, effective workout, and
you know what the truth of the whole thing is, like, you get put on these interviews, and saying things like that, like you're going to clip it out and you're going to put it on videos, just like we just talked about before this. And it sounds super great, you know? But the reality is that there's a lot of the times that my conversations are not like that. I just had a conversation with a client yesterday. I said, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time. I said, get your shit together and figure out what you need to do. And I love her to death. That's the reason why I talk to her like that. Because it's not about the money. It's because I gave you the tools. You have all the supplies you need. Go build your fucking house. Like, don't blame me for the shit you're not seeing. And that's really it too. You know, like you what are you gonna ask me? You're gonna ask me for a meal plan? I got it. I gave it to you. You're gonna ask me for the workouts? I gave it to you. You're on my app. You know what to do on the days you're not with me. You're still not doing it. So I gave you 3 out of the 5 tools you need. The other 2 are for you to show up. And when you show up, I need you to do something. It's not that fucking hard, you know? So yeah, like that is like one of my favorite things. Like when I have a client who's like really trying, I tell them, hey, you crushed it. Don't waste it today. And then my other clients, I tell them like, get your shit together or stop wasting both our times.
And as a trainer, that's very important to like know, okay, every person is different, how I need 100%. To like approach the situation. Yeah.
And I kind of learned that from my high school coach that I later in life thanked because, you know, he was the head coach. He saw that the other coaches were sympathizing with my ego, saying like, yeah, you are great. Like you are the starting running back. You are the starting D end. Like you're good. Like, keep it up. But then he was trying to humble me. So I kind of saw the different ways you can be a coach, you know, and I saw that. And it kind of goes the same thing for like with Garmo and like the other place that I train at. I train at True Martial Arts. It's a completely different training setting, you know, and they're both great. They both serve their purpose, you know, like Garmo's a no bullshit kind of guy. Matt is a no bullshit kind of guy. Like Professor, no bullshit kind of guy, but they all have different approaches on how they train. Professor's very soft spoken. He's not gonna like, you know, baby you, but he's definitely gonna like understand like, you know, you got an injury, all right, that's cool. Like we can work around it. Tell Garmo you got an injury. Let me see what he's gonna tell you. He's gonna tell you, get your ass on the fucking mat. You know? But it's just the different approaches. And that's kind of what I do with my clients too. I know who I can fuck around with and punk them out, and I know who I can't.
Mm-hmm. Different ways to motivate
for sure
and help them understand. Yeah.
100%.
All right, so another thing, obviously, I'm going to try and edit out the sounds of the kids in the background, but how is it being an entrepreneur who wakes up at 3 a.m. to go train your clients while still being a dad?
Hey, don't discredit me, bro. It's before 3 a.m.
All right, what is 2:30 a.m.?
Don't discredit my time, brother.
Adding on that, the morning routine. So I know when you wake up, I know you have a routine.
Yeah. So I like to try to stick to my routine as much as possible. But the earlier I wake up, the more I find my routine to get a little bit altered. So I'll kind of tell you where my mentality on my morning wake ups came from. I was definitely not the smartest kid in school at all. I always had to work extra hard as far as like understanding, you know, workbooks and school, and I was not good in school at all. So when I had this like little conversion of like humbling myself and understanding everything that I needed to do to be anything of success, I started listening to Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker, the one that says if you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, you'll be successful. That guy. He said something one time, and it just like it's something that resonated for me forever. He said, "You do not have to be the smartest guy ever. You just have to wake up before the smartest guy and start working before him." And when he said that, I was like, "That's it. That's all I needed to hear." So I started to get to work. We used to open up at 5 a.m. and then we would close at 11 p.m. So I would get to work at 5 a.m. and I would leave at 11 p.m. And I would drink 2 Red Line Extremes a day. Like, honest to God, that's what I would do. I would drink 2 Red Line Extremes a day. And Isla, stay over there, please. Okay. So I took that like to heart big time. And because I know where my faults are, and you know, school was not my suit. So I started waking up super early. I'd get to the gym before anybody would bother me with any kind of work. And I would sit there and I would look around the gym and I would say, what could I do to make this better? What could I do this way? What could I do that way? And I literally just would like manifest things I would want to do. And my dad being a beast, like he really never said no to me. Like he when I told him that I didn't want to go to school anymore, I wanted to like run the gym with him. He was like, all right, well, if that's what you're going to do, then you're not going to just be a trainer. You're not going to be just a gym owner. You have to be the best trainer and you have to be the best gym owner. Otherwise, you're not doing this. He's like, if you're going to be the best, you tell me you're going to be the best, then I'll support you. If that's not what you're going to do, then don't think you're going to do that. So I took that to heart, you know? And then that training room you guys see me post all the time, me and him like just went to the drawing board and just fucking dove in it. You know, we weren't doing that good. You know, it was a bad time for the economy and we were just staying afloat. And I was like, I'm going to open up this room and I'm going to die in this room to make this work. And that's what I did. That's where my early morning started. And then, just the past like 2 years, it was really 4 a.m. before. I'd wake up at 4, do a cold shower. I was like, I got to get off these energy drinks. I was drinking red lines in 5 hours and bro, I was a mess. So I started doing, mud water, coffees. Shout out to Detroit Cookie for getting my cold brews. Oh my God, the best cold brew ever. So I started doing that, and then I would shoot over to work and then I would typically run. First thing in the morning I would do is run. That's what I like to do. And then I start training my clients. And then now I had a guy recently, about 6 months ago, call me and he's like, I want to train with you at 4 a.m. He's like, if you don't want to do it, I understand. I'm like, no, done. Game over. I'm like, if you're serious about training at 4 a.m., come sign up. I was like, because I'll do it. And he fucking came and signed up. And I was like, I told my wife, I'm like, oh, he's
dang it. I was hoping he was bluffing.
Yeah. I was like, fuck. I was like, but I committed to him. And I was like, and I'm going to commit until it's done. I was like, it's just what it is. And every single session, this guy puts his hand out and he's like, thank you. And like, I never even told him, but like when he says that, I'm like, I will train this guy at fucking 2:30 in the morning if I have to. Like, he's so appreciative that somebody will train him at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, he shows up. He does his work. He does it. Bro, if anybody's training with you consistently 2 days a week at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're a disciplined person. He does not miss. He does not cancel, you know? So like my morning routine now, I wake up between 2:30 and 2:45 in the morning. I wake up, I wash my face, do that whole thing. I have pre-made cold brew in my refrigerator. I grab it, I get in my car, I drink salt water on my way to work. By the time I get to the gym, I have 1.5 liters of water already through. I drink my coffee. I get about 20 minutes of a walk-in, and then I start my first client of the day. And then
emphasis on importance of hydration.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, well, because I was doing coffee about a half gallon a day with no water.
Yeah.
Just trying to stay afloat. So like I was like, I gotta have this water before I start drinking coffee so I can stay alive. And then obviously I go to jiu-jitsu Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I leave and I come back to work and I work until 6 p.m. And how do I balance family? I don't care how much a client pays me. You won't get me to stay at work past 11 o'clock on Friday. I will never go in on Saturday and I will never go in on a Sunday. It's not enough. It's not nearly how much I want to be at home, but it is what it is, 3 o'clock in the morning until 6 p.m. at night, basically Monday through Thursday. Friday I leave at 11, and then I'm done for the weekend, so I have like 2.5 days off.
And let me ask you, so when you are home, like I've noticed since being here, fully present.
Yeah, for sure.
Kids, your wife, your family.
I went through a little stint, like, just recently of like being invested in my phone. Like, the gym is not the only thing that I do. So like I have all these like little hustles that I have on the side that might consume my time on my phone. And then my wife was just like, we're both on our phone a lot, and I'm like, you're right. I'm like, so now it's like home, control your phone, spend time with the kids. Like they'll want to go in our basement. We got bounce houses and shit in our basement. And like, all right, let's go outside. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Like being 100% more present. And I think another thing too is like, I think my generation is doing better, but like the generation above me would never change diapers. They wouldn't do any of that kind of shit. Like I will change all their diapers. I give them baths. I put them to sleep. I wake up at night with them. I can care less. The last week my wife was sick. The baby was up from 11 o'clock at night until 3 o'clock in the morning. She went to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. I went to work. So I was up basically from the day before. I pulled a 24-hour shift. And then I came home. My wife was like deathly ill. Yeah, I mean, but it's just like my dad worked his ass off, and I have no bad memories of my childhood, but I just know that I want to be present for them to remember that, you know. He never missed anything important, but I just think that it's cool like when the dad's like around for that stuff, you know. And he never really came to my sporting stuff actually. 2 football games, maybe 3. No, he just didn't. He didn't. My dad never played sports. So like they came to a football game and I was a running back. So I'd be like, oh, George Shauoni on the carry. He's like, what is that? Are you getting in trouble? Why are they saying your name? And I'm like, bro, get out of here. But yeah, no, that was pretty it on that.
What role are you gonna have fitness play in the lives of your kids?
So
well, actually, how old are they first? So
yeah, for sure. So my oldest is 4, my middle just turned 3, and then the baby's 18 months. So all my kids are 18 months apart, minus the new one is going to be a little bit more. Well, I want them to play every sport possible. I want them to be into fitness, but what I won't do is burn them out. But what I won't let is them quit. Like if they get put in soccer, they're going to play soccer until soccer is done. I'm not going to let them do soccer. I don't like soccer anymore. Oh, I'm going to go do this. I don't like this anymore. Me personally, I think that was a big reason why a lot of kids quit in school, you know, playing football and not finishing it through. I think if you play football your freshman year, you should play all 4 years, in my opinion. It just teaches quitting habits, you know. If you start it because you liked it. Keep it going. My wife really didn't play sports. She was very smart in school. Very, very smart. She's a nurse. And she went back to school while we were married. And one day she was like, I got a test. And I'm like, a test for what? She was just so smart. She never paid attention for anything. It was like an online course for nursing. And I'm like, I didn't even know you were in school. Like if that was me, I'm like 12 hours a day reading the same fucking chapter trying to understand what I just read, you know? So we're going to kind of see like where they go. My oldest is super, super smart. So I feel like she would be like her. The middle is kind of clumsy like me. So I feel like she's going to be into jujitsu. She rips arm bars right now. And the baby likes to hit everybody. So she'll probably be with us too. So yeah, no, I think I'm going to let them kind of play their course, but they're not allowed to quit anything they start.
Okay. And then you kind of mentioned this there. What other side businesses do you have?
Yeah. So, you know, I got this like social media thing I do with my sister-in-law. She's a photographer and a videographer. So she like manages social media accounts. So I help her get accounts, do that. I'm actually now officially out of the cannabis industry in the state level. Sold that. I do like a consulting for gyms. I help gyms consult. Like right now, one of the functional patterns guys in Oakland, California. He actually joined the seminary to be a priest. Super cool story. So I help him run his gym remote. So he owns a personal training studio. I help him do that. And then just like random stuff that just floats by, and you know, Amazon sales and just random shit. Just whatever I can get my hands into that I'll just run it. I don't care.
For sure. Yeah, I always see you plugging your friends' businesses, like on Instagram and stuff. How important is investing in your network to you?
You know what? That was like one of the first things that I wanted to even bring up. It's like when I started my training room at my gym, the first people that bought personal training, that didn't even want personal training, were people that just wanted to support small business. You know? So anytime I get any of my friends that that want to start a business or they're trying to promote their business, I can care less what it is. I'm supporting either by my posting, by purchasing. Like, I'm gonna do it, you know. You cold? Okay, you can put this on. Like David knows rash guard comes out, I'm buying one. I don't need one. I don't need
I don't
it
even
at
like
all.
the color. I'm buying it. Give
Literally,
me one.
literally, you
Like
know.
the pink one. I never wear the pink
Yeah,
one.
right.
It's just, but I bought it.
I got like Lauren and Tony. Like, I won't even tell them when I'm coming to the bakery. I just pull up and I'll start buying cookies because every time I come there, they're not. So now their employees are like, oh, hold on 1 second, I gotta run to the back. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, yeah, I'm wearing masks for the first time in my life. It's like 2020 all over. But yeah, I'm a big believer that even if I don't know the person, if I feel like they're genuine and I could help somehow, I plug it on my Instagram. Just because like some of my biggest supporters were strangers, you know, and I just know how much it helped me. And you never know, you know, how bad they really need that business to go, you know?
What's the saying? Was it like the crab in the barrel mentality or whatever it is, you know, where it's like that doesn't feel good when you're just, you know, kind of like,
and you can't get out.
yeah, when somebody's doing well and you don't want them to do well.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that doesn't serve you,
For sure.
right? There's you have to have like that like abundance kind of mindset
sure.
too, right?
We had this there's a personal training studio that's like local to my gym. He's a direct competition to me. And he saw during the pandemic that I was open. And he called me. I grew up with the guy. He called me and just asked me, he's like, yo, like what's the deal? Like, how are you staying open? He's like, I'm open too, but like I'm not posting anything. You're posting everything. And I'm like, oh, I got these waivers signed that I had my lawyer make. I was like, and to be honest with you, the city is not going to do anything. I was like, I'll send you my waiver to have your client sign. Just take my letterhead off. Yeah, like I don't give a fuck. Bro, his business is his business and my business is my business. Anybody who leaves me to go to him, they were never mine. And anybody who leaves him to come to me, they were never his. You know, it is what it is. The restaurants open up right next to another restaurant. You know, like it is what
You
it
always
is.
see a CVS next to a Walgreens.
Yeah.
That boggles my mind, actually, whenever I see that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
But you know what's funny? Is that 9 out of 10 times I pull into a CVS.
Yeah.
Straight
you
up,
have
I really do.
Yeah.
I walk into a CVS almost every single time, and it's because that's all I ever went to when I was a kid.
CVS for me too.
Yeah, that's all I go to.
Yeah.
So
How's
it's like,
Walgreens even stay a lot? I'm a
I don't even
CVS
know
guy
what to
too.
do when I go
Yeah.
in there. I was like,
dude, those
where is it?
Walgreens are like, they're like bougie as hell now. Like how big they are. That
It's
one
like
that
the
are over here.
Target
Yeah.
of the-
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that was it for me. I'm just like, if you call me, I'll help you. You know, if I can help you, I'll help you. I don't care if you're my so-called competition. It is what it is.
I mean, that shows a lot of self-confidence right there that you're
for
going to give your competition
Yeah.
waivers.
Of course,
and
it
help them out.
bothers you sometimes if you lose a client to somebody who's your competition, but that's business, and it's a part of growing up for that person, right? You might have not had the right tools for them, you know.
Yeah, like certain, like Planet Fitness's model is their model. Like,
Yeah,
people
for
are
sure.
gonna, but you know, you're not necessarily gonna like, even want to sign up a person that loves Planet Fitness in the sense of like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things that are like their model is like perfect for people so cheap that I
Yeah.
can go when I go,
Go when I
maybe
go.
never go,
Exactly.
you know, type of
And
thing.
get some pizza once a month,
Yeah,
and Tootsie
yeah.
Rolls when you walk
Yep.
out.
It's
Like,
just, you know, no certain cap at the weight and certain equipment, but it's just like we're making this model for basically a niche kind of,
Yeah.
you know, group of people.
that's what they did.
Yep.
They hit the niche. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's
So have you always been inclined to entrepreneurship? Like, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
What was
I
your
did.
first business?
Man, shit. Well, actually, we used to pull a hustle on my uncle. So, so my little cousin and I, we used to tell him, if we clean the basement, will you pay us money? And he'd be like, yeah. So we'd go make a mess. And then he would come down and he'd look at it and he'd be like, yeah, oh yeah. He'd be like, well, it's a big mess, so you got to pay us like $20. Because he would say 10. He'd be like, all right, deal. But we just made that mess to make money, you know? So we would pull a hustle like that.
you create the problem.
We create
you
the
solve
problem,
it.
we solved it real quick. Yeah, so that was it. And then honestly, it was just seeing the sales side of the gym at a young age, knowing like, oh, a commission, it just means like I have to sell it and I can make that money, like that's all I have to do. So I would fucking sell everything, anything I could. My dad used to tell me to wear like khaki pants and a polo because I was so young trying to sell memberships to people. Like an 11-year-old kid trying to sell a grown ass man a personal training package and stuff, you know? But yeah, like when I realized that, like when you would see like in school, I don't know if you guys ever did that where you would take those tests and it'll tell you like what you're gonna be when you grow up. You know what I'm talking about? So we would do that and it would say like, oh, like it would tell me like you're gonna be like I don't remember, like a security guard or something. And it'd be like you're gonna make like $50K a year. I don't know what the fuck that meant. So then like when I was like in like freshman year of high school, you see like LeBron James signs a contract for like $50 million. I'm like, 50 million? I was happy at 50,000, you know? And then I was like, oh no. I was like, you own a business, you can make whatever the fuck you want. So then that's kind of like what kind of set it off for me on that. So yeah, I've always wanted to. I don't think I ever did anything that was like that would set me off, except for being in our own business, knowing that we can make whatever we want. But yeah, the gym's pretty much set me entrepreneur.
So is it more of a matter of the financial freedom, or
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, financial freedom, and then like, dude, my dad takes pride, and I'm so grateful for these, and I do it with my kids now too, as like family vacations, and he took us on vacation all the time, like all the time, and like the older I got, the more I realized that like if you work for a corporation, that's not gonna happen all the time. Like we would go on vacations like all the time. Like my friends that like my brother-in-law, like he works for GM, like he works from home now, but before like it would be like, well, I gotta see if I can get that time off, or like I don't have vacation time left, or I don't have PTO. I don't gotta fucking worry about that shit. Like, I call up my team, like who cover my schedule on these days. You're good. All right, bet I'm done. You know, and just bounce. Before we had kids, we would take spontaneous trips like on the fly. Drive home. Let's go to Florida. Let's go to Vegas. Let's go to Toronto. Whatever it is, you know. But yeah, the freedom. Isla, go over there. Go over there. Because you're too loud. I'm talking over here. Yeah, financial freedom, just the freedom of everything. I mean, obviously, I think the only difference is that no matter what you do, your work comes home with you when you own your own business. You know, there's days I come home where it's like I have problems to solve, and even if I don't talk about it, like it's visible. You know, during the pandemic was a scary ass time for us. Being in a gym, we were the last people to open up. Yeah, I was like, it would eat me alive. We're super busy. We're getting 500% more people in our gym during the pandemic because we were the only people open and people were dying to work out. But then I was like, every day, the health department's coming. OSHA's there. You know, like you're fighting a battle that you're not going to win. You know,
And there was no playbook for it either.
there's no playbook. Your playbook
waters.
is like, I'm going to tell you guys a crazy story. So we opened up, obviously, against the ruling. And we were getting phone calls and text messages and emails to our gym saying like we're pieces of shit, like all this stuff, you know? And so we got this dude who comes in. He was a veteran. He was in he went to Iraq and Afghanistan, whatever. He comes in and he comes up to me and he's like, you know, I just want to let you know that I was gonna kill myself. He's like, all I do is work out. I don't have any family here. He's like, I'm here for work, and gym shutting down made me want to kill myself. He's like, I didn't realize I had PTSD until the gym shut down. And I was like, we're not shutting down ever again. I was like, I don't give a fuck what they do. We're not shutting down. So he's like, okay. He's like, deal. As we had this conversation, a guy from the health department walks into the gym. He's like, I'm here to shut you down. And my dad looks at me and we're like, we literally just told this guy we're not shutting down, you know? And I'm only going to call this guy out because of what kind of piece of shit he was. Scrawny ass, like 5'0", egotistic, badge driven piece of shit. It's like, I'm going to walk out every single one of your members. Everybody's leaving right now. So, you know, we go to the gym floor and we're like, everybody's got to go, but we're going to be open. Don't worry. They walk out and one of our members is like, give me his business card. So the next day he calls the health department and was like, the guy didn't give him a ticket. He's like, he didn't give him a ticket. He's like, we didn't send anybody there. So what do you mean you didn't send anybody here? This guy came here. He dropped off his business card. He walked out everybody from the gym. He's like, we didn't send anybody to this business. So we're like, all right. Email goes out. We're not closed. We're open. Guy shows up the next day. Same guy. And I look at his business card. I was like, let me fucking look him up on LinkedIn. He works for Lifetime. He works for Lifetime and he works for the health department. Okay. So my dad was like, all right, yeah, just give me your ticket that you want to write me. Give me your shit and just get the fuck out. Like, nah, I'm not closing nothing. And then the guy is like, no, you have to close. And he goes, does the health department know you're here? Or does Lifetime know you're here? And the guy like froze and he fucking walks out. So he leaves. 5 days later, OSHA walks in. So the dude called OSHA on us. We're not OSHA certified. We're a fucking gym. And the guy walks in and he's looking around and he's like, I don't know what to write you up for right now.
He's like, why am I here?
Yeah. He looks around. He's like, nobody's wearing a mask and they're not 6 feet apart. You're not supposed to be open. You know, so he wrote us up a ticket and we had to, I don't know, we took like stupid measures. We had to take people's temperatures and whatever until they got off our back.
Super effective thermometers.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, the thermometer that doesn't even touch you. And so he dipped out, and then we ended up getting that $300 fine, and then a tag on our license or whatever. That was that. So then fucking strip clubs opened up, and the gyms were still closed, and we got a fucking violation from OSHA. Yeah, it was stupid as hell. So the guy came basically on his own with no authority at all and shut us down during that time. So yeah, that was a fucking piece of shit. Yeah, so that's why I was like, I fucking scrawny ass loser. But yeah, so that was that. That was the pandemic story on that. What do you got for me? What do you?
So well, on that note, now so after, I mean, so for me, what's the one of the like? So you had a post that you posted that I liked. And I just jotted it down, a couple things, because there's one thing that for me that was super, now being at this part of my life, looking back, reflecting and things like that. And I'm always like, one of the biggest things that you also mentioned, one of your keys to being successful is like consistency. And to your point, like that you made earlier in the podcast, like, everybody wants that instant gratification, things take time. So like, what's your, like, how important are you when you talk about consistency, do you tell people like, hey, it's just like, because these are the things like sometimes it's the 1% or that small little win that'll keep adding up, right?
100%. So I have a client right now. We put like super aggressive on a weight loss journey, and he's like, I only lost 5 pounds this week, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, some of my clients haven't lost 5 pounds in 3 months, and I'm like looking at him, and I'm like, so your goal is to lose a total of 30 pounds. If you lose 5 pounds a week, you've lost that in a shorter time frame than you've ever done in your entire life. So it's like, I'm like, these small victories, they might seem small to you, but they're huge to someone else. So it's also too, it's like, just like what you said, these like 1% victories, it might be 1% to you, but it might be 100% to somebody else too. So it's also like understanding where you're at, where other people are too, and the consistency thing is like, you can chop at a tree for a very long time before it starts to tip. You could have a dull ass axe and it's gonna eventually it will start to chip over. But you just got to be consistent. And I use analogies a lot with my clients. I get like dentists and stuff, and I'm like, that's like me brushing my teeth but not flossing, and they're like, it's not the same. I'm like, it's exactly the same. It's like the consistency of everything, man. It's like everything I do is very consistent. My teaching is consistent. My habits are consistent. My nutrition is consistent. Jiu-jitsu is consistent. Anything that I'm good at is consistent. Anything I suck at, I'm either going to get good at because I'm consistent, or I'm not going to get good at because I'm not consistent. And that's just a fact of the whole entire thing. And actually, I learned this in doing jiu-jitsu. It's like Kaizen. Are you familiar with Kaizen is? Just like to continue to get better mentality. And I went to Austin, Texas to visit my friend, and his roommate had a tattoo on his arm that said Kaizen, and I was like so geeked. I was like doing jujitsu for like 3 years. I was like, "Do you do jujitsu?" And he's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Never mind." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Your arm says Kaizen. I thought you trained at like Kaizen jujitsu." And he's like, "Nah, man, it just means to get better. I want to get better every day." And I'm like, yeah, I got you, bro. So yeah, like the consistency, man, is just like, it doesn't matter what you do for work. You know what I mean? It's just like, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be consistently hustling in your business. If you even are doing anything for another business, if you want to be good at it, you have to be consistent. You want to be a good father, it's consistency. You want to be a good husband, consistency. There's nothing bad that happens out of being consistent, honestly. Unless you're consistently a shithead.
Yeah, exactly. But then you're being good at being a shit. So
yeah, there you go. You're good at something.
That's what your goals are.
Yeah. So I mean, there's like all these like one words that you can use for success. Like persistent, consistency. You're driven. You're the courage, humble. All these like positive one words are like words of affirmation that should be playing in your mind all the time. And I kind of live by that too. Like, I don't think just being consistent is like the driving factor of like why I'm successful in our industry. I think is because the morals I was brought up on, being humble and learning to be humble, God shoving that in my face too. So I think
it's a combination of things,
yeah.
And some days you might need to endure more to be successful,
Yeah.
and so it's
For
like
sure.
these things. Yeah,
It's like this. It's like everybody has heard those things said before too. Is like the days that you don't feel like doing something, and you do it, are the days that are the best. You know, like I definitely don't feel like going to jiu-jitsu every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I had already been up for 8 hours at that point. You know, but I still go.
yeah. I think training, like whether even just in the gym or through martial arts, I think that's a big like you see that a lot, because those days when you're like, man, I just don't feel like training today, I don't got it in me for whatever reason, and you show up, go, you really never feel worse
No.
after. You feel
No,
great.
no.
Yeah, you feel better.
Unless you're old Garmo.
Yeah.
Unless you're old Garmo. Yeah, TRT Garmo. This guy. Honestly, I look better than him as him on Halloween.
You definitely had the beard and the mustache thing going.
I'm telling
right?
you.
The shorts weren't as short.
Bro, I couldn't borrow my wife's shorts. Yeah, no.
So, speaking of your posts, you had one yesterday or the day before, yeah, where you were calling out the haters. So you were talking about you question the process, now you're questioning the results.
Yeah,
Talk to us
so
about that.
like, there's I don't know exactly how the saying goes, but it's like people will question, or people will doubt your journey, and they'll question your destination or something along those lines. And it's like, it pisses me off sometimes, because some people see such great success in their transformations, and while they're doing it, you'll have all these people who are close to you. Oh, come on, you can have one drink. Come on, you can have one cheat meal. Who cares? It's not that big of a deal. And they're almost like a burden to like whatever you're trying to do. And then when you get there to your destination, you lost 50 pounds or whatever, they're like, how'd you do that? Oh, you're one of those people that are on, that weight loss medication. You're one of those people that whatever, you did a fad diet. You did this. Like, bro, get off this guy's nuts, honestly. Like, it just bothers me sometimes, like, you look at these like super successful guys like Steve Jobs and, Jeff Bezos, and people will say like, oh, they should be more charitable. They should do this for the world, and they should do this, and maybe they should, honestly, but you don't know what kind of shit they went through night in, and they didn't sleep, and they busted their ass working on their business that they turned into $1 billion and sometimes $1 trillion industry. Like, why did they have to do that? They don't have to do anything. And people doubted them their whole entire life, and they make it work. When I told people I was going to be a trainer, some people tell me now, even now, like, oh, you're just a trainer. Sure. I'm just a trainer. Thanks. Cool. Fuck it. Whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But
That's
then
what
you
makes
talk
them
shit
feel
about
better.
like, oh, like you have a nice house. Oh, you're always on vacation. Oh, like you buy your wife this. Yeah, so what?
Just a trainer.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm just a
the
fucking
thing.
trainer. It is what it is.
People really like, honestly, and it's just something that and these are all like things like, I remind myself of this as well, right? Like, so it's something that people really worry a lot about other people, and sometimes not enough about themselves, and just kind of like worry about like yourself inwardly. Like go inside, deal with your own internal things, right? Worry about your like don't be so fixated on other people, like what they're doing, how they're doing it. I mean, unless you're, sincerely trying to understand and learn from them, awesome. Even if you don't agree with it, there's something to learn and understand about it, right? And that's like that. Like I posted this quote today. It was just exactly kind of like this, and it kind of hits on it. But it's like where society says, "Be yourself," right? But then at the same time, society will say, "No, not like that."
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's like be yourself, but
But they
then
want you to be like
if
society.
it's different and
Yeah.
they don't understand it, that's not like that. That's
Yeah.
So it's just one of these things where I think people are so like not dealing with themselves, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
they're just like that's why you get haters, right?
Yeah, you get haters for
that-
sure. And it's also times too is because they wish they were doing what you're doing in some way. Like bro, like I personally think, I'm gonna say this because it's my team, but I think I have the baddest fucking team. Like my team is this shit. Like my guys, like I'll rock out for them, and I know they will for me too. And with that being said, like whatever ventures that I go on, I'm taking them with me. It is what it is. One of my guys ended up with a colon obstruction last year, and he almost died. He was in the hospital, and this actually made me think like I think I do a very good job leading them and like making sure that they know that I'm not like their boss. I'm one of you guys. I'm riding here all day long with you guys. When he was in the hospital, I went there every single day. I was like, hey, are you good on money? Like, what do you need here? I bought him whatever he needed. When he got out, he's like, bro, he's like, I don't even know how to say thank you to you. I'm like, for what? And it actually like hurt me in a sense like that I don't think he expected me to do that. You know what I mean? Like if that was me, I know they would do that for me, but I don't think he expected me to do that for him. And I was like, bro, that's fucked up for society, for people to think that the other people wouldn't do that for them. And it felt like for me, it was like fucked up that I don't think he expected that I would do that for him.
Something powerful in that too, because you kind of changed his like reality in a way of where like, okay, I didn't expect somebody to do that, show that kind of kindness to me, right, in this situation. So that's gonna go, transfer forward to him.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like the thing too is like people say like, oh, you're a trainer. Sure, maybe I am, but maybe I am a trainer, but I have 8 trainers that work with me that we're gonna take over, and when we take over, we're not gonna just be just 8 trainers. We're gonna make sure that you guys know that there's a lot coming. We're gonna come hard, and whatever it is, it might not even be in this fitness space, but we're gonna come, and we're gonna come. I'm taking these guys with me wherever I go, because they're loyal to me, and I'm gonna be loyal to them too. So, big time for sure.
What do you guys have coming up? Like, what's on the horizon that cooking up?
Oh, come on, bro. Honestly, like, there's a lot of things that like my dad actually, I don't even know if he even remembers telling me this, but when I was younger, like maybe like 10, 11, 12, he told me that he had like a folder of ideas of businesses that he would want to do, whether they were like something he was serious about or just like an idea. And bro, I have notebooks everywhere. I literally have like notebooks that I journal, notebooks that like I study for like, personal training stuff. And then I have like ideas, and like if I have like an idea that I think might be worth executing, I'll fill up that whole notebook. And sometimes it just sits in my drawer and I won't even look at it again. Like it was just like a time that I was thinking about doing it. So like right now I'm in a notebook right now, building out a franchise model of something. There's plenty of like what there is. There's something like it now. I'm gonna simplify it, maybe make something out of it, and maybe not. We'll see. But like I said, these guys are coming with me no matter what I do. I don't want to spill the beans on what it is, and for the only reason is because I don't want it to come out to make it seem like I said I was gonna do something and I didn't do it, because it's premature. It's just how I I like the hustling mindset where like my mind goes everywhere, you know? Like I don't put any kind of business like to the side, you know, and that's just like the entrepreneur in my mind.
I do love the fact that you, because I'm the same way in a sense of it's super important when you have these thoughts, and especially from like an entrepreneur kind of mindset too. But you have these thoughts, and sometimes people like will hold on to the thought and try to say, oh, like, oh, it's interesting, and kind of like get back to it later. But it's so hard to do that. But you'll you'll sit there and recall it or jot it down and start to get into your notebook and just let it flow out.
Yeah.
Even if it's something that you're like, I don't know what this is. I
Yeah.
don't even like have a plan necessarily of it, but just like let it flow.
Yeah.
Maybe you do something, maybe you don't. Maybe it leads to something else, but it's great.
I'll tell you though, so one of my clients is like super crazy into real estate, and he was just talking to me during our session. He's like, yeah, I got this like 800 square foot retail spot available if you know anybody who's looking for retail. And I was like, what does something like that cost for rent? And he like, I don't remember the number he said, but say it was like $1,000 a month or something. And my mind right away was like thinking to myself, what business has an overhead of $1,000 a month and doesn't make money? Like honestly, like it's nothing, right? So I'm like sitting there talking to him for 45 minutes. And I was like, yeah, man, like I completely came up with this on the spot. I was like, yeah, man, I'm thinking about doing this franchise model of a subscription business where I charge members monthly. And we're going to do X, Y, and Z in there. He's like, do you need an investor? And I was like, no, I don't need any money. And he's like, we'll open up 5 locations within 1 year. He's like, if you want an investor, just let me know. I'm like, no, my model's simple, less than $60K to open. And he's like, no. He's like, let me see your business plan. I was like, when it's ready, I'll give it to you. Right, he walked out of the gym. I had a break. I went in my office. I just started writing everything down that I thought of. This literally just happened last week. This is last week it happened. And I've been spending about 2 to 3 hours a day just like figuring out how much it's going to cost, calling vendors, getting real rough numbers on that. And I almost hit it on the head. It was about 80,000. I said 60, but it was about 80. And I'm like doing my numbers, and I'm like, if I make this work, I'm going to call this fucking guy and be like, you know what? I want you as my investor for sure. Let's run it. But it's like dumb stuff like that. It's like, it's like, you guys can't see, but my daughter is like ringing a Christmas bell or something. I just think that it's important to understand like your surroundings, your network of people, and to, like where if you close your mind, then you're limited on everything you do. And I just don't believe in that at all. You know, I feel like I can learn from everybody in every industry of everything. I wanted to open up a Detroit cookie actually, but the spot that I wanted to go into wouldn't let me. So I was like, fuck that.
Yeah, we need more locations.
I know. Not for. I eat too many of their cookies, to be honest with you. Have you had it, Los?
No, I haven't.
Really?
I've just had Crumble. I haven't had
Man,
the
fuck Crumble.
official
Oh, they
Detroit.
destroy
Fuck Crumble. They
I
kill
know,
Crumble. I'm
yeah.
gonna
I
get
just
you
haven't
some
had it.
cookies.
And the cinnamon roll too. Wow.
He's always talking about it.
Yeah,
Dude,
I want to
they're
bring some to the gym. I know a lot of guys at the gym.
you know what? That's a
There'd be
good.
some
I'm
real-
gonna bring some.
After,
There'd
yeah,
be some real
Because I
Planet
train
Fitness
Lauren
vibes.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I might have her bring
Friday
me
is
some.
like a nice cookie after hard rolls.
Oh yeah, bet. Yeah, I'm gonna see how this franchise model works out, and if it works out, then I'll do another interview with you guys, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. Hell yeah. What about you guys? Tell me what started this podcast.
You got to listen to episode 1 to hear
Episode
about that.
1.
I mean,
Damn, I
really-
just outed that I haven't listened to episode 1.
It's like you always have like you have these conversations in the locker room after jiu-jitsu, after everywhere I've been, honestly, and then we were talking about it in the locker room, just how you have these conversations about everything from deep life thoughts or what it's to something as silly as I don't know.
Locker room talk.
Just
But
just
after his classes, we would just both be chilling in there talking with basically anybody that was there. Richard, Mike,
Mhm.
Nick, like anybody. And dude, some of these days it'd be like an hour plus. One day we were
Yeah.
in there for 3 hours. So we're just like, we might have something. There's a lot of interesting people. And then
And that's the thing, the interesting people, like the people, right? Like you're
Yeah.
just talking, you're like, this is fascinating.
What's funny is
Keep going.
that Josh posted a picture from a video that he took because he started recording our like the rolls at the end of a round. Like I was like kind of like laying like I was in Baywatch. I was laying on my side, and then Nick, lawyer Nick, was laying on the floor like looking up, and then Josh just talking to Mike, and it's like literally, and his caption said something about these talks after a roll, and then he like tagged everybody, and then Nick goes, "That's Junior consoling me, saying that I almost tapped him." But it's really funny though, man, because some of my most valued friendships and like relationships that I truly do value a lot come from like sports in general.
Well, yeah, because you're just having to endure hard things, and you really find out who that person is in
Yeah.
those moments. So,
And it's funny too, is like I've been in a lot of fights, like a lot more than I probably should have. And
should have been in one more with that fake OSHA guy.
yeah, right?
Department of Health
Motherfucker.
guy.
Health guy. But what's funny is that I would say 9 out of 10 times after I fought the person, they ended up being my friend.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like it's just funny how that works, right? It's just like we ended up scrapping and now we're boys. Like it's just it is what it is.
It's just what guys like to do. That's what we talked about with Brandon too. Like, it's just kind of our thing. You put young
It's in our
boys
blood.
together, they
Yeah.
start fighting. Put dogs together, they start fighting.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
She's about to fall right off that trampoline. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like genetically like what we do. You know, we don't use our brains; we use our bodies to solve problems.
That's why our life expectancy is lower than women.
I don't think that's the only reason, but probably one of the top reasons. Yeah, we definitely don't rationally think, but that's why we have our significant others to help us with that. You know, like my wife levels me out big time. Sometimes I'll like get super heated, and then she's just like, I can just tell the look in her face. She's just like, that's not how you're supposed to react. I'm like, damn, I fucked up. Honestly, and you have to have that like that respectful boundary, like to understand. Like I just said earlier, you have to know when you're doing something wrong, you know. And she makes it aware for me without even telling me.
She's telling you. I mean, you guys know each other, so she can just like look, like you said, give you that look, and you know exactly
Yeah,
what
yeah.
that look means. And
It's the same look that my dad used to give me when I was growing up. He just stare at me, and like he wouldn't even tell me you're doing something wrong. He'd just look at me, and I'd be like, damn. Yeah, I mean, what's your guys' like end goal with the podcast?
We're just trying to learn from as many different interesting people as we can. Like we've got, so our last episode was with Brandon, obviously. We're going to do long form interviews once a week. And then basically we're recording 2 podcasts a week. One is going to be like the one you didn't listen to the other day, where it's just going to be like a short 20-minute-ish episode with me and Mike, where he's going to bring forward some philosophical stuff. We're going to discuss that mainly from Stoicism, like the Daily Stoic, and then just kind of break that down, give people something of value to kind of take into their week. And then the interview will be with different interesting people.
yeah. So and that's the podcast is like learning from individuals, from humans, and trying to see what kind of like wisdom and insight and things that we can get from the conversation, all right, and meet, and then just as far as like the stoicism or even anything that's kind of like, even like when I was talking to Carlos about it, even something as much as what did the mat teach me this week, right? Because there's a lot of lessons that you learn from just those
not
mental,
even jujitsu. It's just
like
like
just
you
life
learn
that just translate. So sometimes it'll be about that. Excuse me. So I think that's kind of where what we're, and then just approaching it where there's no, like, we're just trying to have fun and learn ourselves and do it. And
Well, yeah, one thing too, one of the original ideas for a name was just everyday people. And it's kind of a misconception people have, is that you can only learn from famous people. Like all these people on these podcasts tend to be like famous or have like billionaires or whatever. Yeah, hard to relate to those people, but you can learn from everybody. Like, I mean, as you said, I'm just a personal trainer. Like, no, you're a business owner. Like, people can learn a lot from people. Like, can learn a lot from Nick. People can learn a lot from anybody. So that's kind of what we're trying to facilitate, and just start more
I gotta-
interesting conversation.
We'll put both of you guys on the spot. What's something that what's a assumed I want to say characteristic or something about me versus something you learned about me, or something that caught you off guard about me?
One thing that caught me off guard for sure was the like douchey ego thing you had getting before, like when you were younger. Because I mean, I think I've even called you this to your face, the mayor of assembly. Like, you're always over here saying hi to everybody,
Yeah.
shaking hands, like doing your mayoral rounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just didn't really see you as a person who would have just been a dick.
Yeah. That makes me happy. Well, thank you.
That's 100% what I was thinking because I was like, there's no, just the fact that you were kind of battling that ego
Yeah.
and that, yeah, that whole thing. I saw nothing of that since I met you, so that was something that I was like, oh, I was very surprised that it was, kind of a part of you. But then I can see how you are now. I mean, that's kind of how it happens, right? Like
Yeah.
through evolution in a way. Like
sure.
you especially when you start to like you took it upon like through your faith in God and connection with Him and your religion and everything too. It's like, hey, let me start to figure this out, right, and see where I need to get better at, and
Yeah.
and so that's. But yeah, I've only known you as like you said, the mayor of.
All right. I hope everybody enjoyed that episode with Junior. Junior, you have any closing thoughts for the locker room philosophers out there?
It's gonna be a super cool podcast. I know what kind of conversations happen after jiu-jitsu, and I'm curious to see the in-depth conversations you guys get onto these podcasts. So I'm happy to be on here.
All right. We appreciate you coming on. Have a good one.